There are dozens of fantastic Euro games that are available today, and despite the countless numbers that I've played, I honestly feel that there is just a small handful that I would consider being absolute necessities. Games that every gamer should consider owning in their personal collection. These games are classics for a variety of reasons, but mostly because of the way in which they remain simple to teach and learn, are infinitely fun to play, and most importantly are wildly robust in the depth of options that they provide players over dozens of unique plays. Some of these essential games would include titles like Agricola, Troyes, Concordia, and the spotlight of today's video, Grand Austria Hotel, a classic Euro-style dice drafting game about transforming your small cafe into a world-famous hotel in Vienna, Austria. Grand Austria Hotel to me is one of the best, most robust dice drafting games that have ever been created. A game that is as much fun to play today as it was 5 years ago when it was originally released in 2015. And today I'm extremely delighted to introduce to you its first major expansion designed by the same fantastic set of original designers entitled Let's Waltz, a robust experience that seamlessly injects a good amount of new content into the game without overcomplicating its wonderfully simple rules. The module that I'll be discussing today is entitled Vienna Ballrooms and is just one of many possible new modules that will be introduced with this expansion, along with the addition of a deluxe version of the game depending upon your Kickstarter support. Vienna Ballrooms in and of itself is a rather large addition to the game and includes components that current fans of the game are already familiar with: 28 new guest cards, 14 new staff cards, 3 political cards, 3 new emperor tiles, all of which are mixed into the current set of original components, giving players even more variability from game to game. Now, these new additions largely interact with the new gameplay elements that are found in this particular module, dealing with the game's ballroom tiles and dancers, as well as its new resource, Champagne. Let's begin with Champagne, represented by these new yellow cubes. Champagne can be, and is meant to be, very difficult to acquire in the game, and can only be done so through a few select methods. By fulfilling specific guest cards that you've acquired, like the ones that you see here, by meeting a specific Emperor request from one of the game's new Emperor tiles, but mostly through drafting dice on your turn, utilizing this new action board overlay that now sits on top of the 2 current pre-printed actions on the board, and allow players to now collect Champagne when drafting dice from either the 1 or the 2 column. This means that typically, in a game, players will only be able to collect Champagne when 3 dice sit in one of these 2 collection bins, making it by far the hardest and rarest resource to collect now in the game. And why is Champagne so critically important? Well, it's directly linked with your ability to interact with the game's new ballroom boards, which of course is the main focus of this new module, allowing your dancer tokens to score additional points and gain you one-time effects throughout the game's 7 rounds. Now, at the very start of any game that includes this Vienna Ballroom module, players will first randomly select 3 of the game's 5 included ballrooms and place them in any order from left to right at the top of the main game board, making sure to use the correct side according to the number of players in the game. During this step, players will also place the ballroom balcony tile to the furthest right of that right-hand ballroom tile, as well as placing the 3 end-of-round indicator markers above the tops of each of these, meaning the 3, the 5, and the 7. These indicator tiles will signify when each of these particular ballrooms will score. Second, each player in reverse turn order will select one of the game's 4 rehearsal tiles, each of which is uniquely different in the bonuses that they provide the players who own those particular boards. Once each of these players have selected the rehearsal tile, they then place them to the left of their hotel board, with their color-coded dancers according to the pre-printed numbers on those tiles. So for example, players will place one of their dancers on the 1 space, while stacking 2 of their dancers on the 2 space, and so forth up that board. These dancers will sit on these tiles until placed out into the ballroom through very specific actions that happen in the game, possibly triggering the ability next to the dancer tokens only when all of the tokens in that row are removed. So as you can see, it's clearly easier to take the actions where your 1 token is stacked compared to those where you have more tokens. So you may be asking yourself how in fact you get to place your dancers into the actual ballroom itself. Well, there are 3 specific ways that this can happen in the game. 1, by meeting the requirements of one of the new unique Emperor tiles that is in the game. 2, through the abilities of some of the new guest cards that come into the game as well. And 3, the most common of any of these options is simply by fulfilling any of the guest cards that is below your board. Yes, you heard that correctly. Players now have a new option in the game when they meet the requirements of a guest by placing that guest instead into a ballroom. Now, instead of placing their guest into one of their pre-prepared rooms that they've already set up, the player may instead decide to collect the guest's victory points and rewards just like they typically would, but instead of putting them to a room, they turn it face down next to their player board, effectively sending this guest to one of the ballrooms. Now, in order to do so, the player will choose any of their dancer tokens from their rehearsal tile and place it in the selected row on the first unoccupied space from left to right in that ballroom of their choice, making sure to pay the champagne costs associated with that space on the board. Noting that some rooms in the ballrooms also provide a one-time bonus when new dancers are placed, like earning immediate victory points or flipping an unoccupied room over to its occupied side, and so forth. Each of these ballrooms is uniquely different in how they are arranged, how they score, and the bonuses that they provide to the players, but they can all generally be broken down into the exact same way. First, each of these 5 ballrooms houses a number of different rows where the players have the opportunity to place their dancers and score bonuses, both of which I've already mentioned. However, each ballroom itself scores in unique ways and at different times in the game according to these round indicator tokens that are placed above the boards at the start of the game. So the first ballroom will score at the end of the 3rd round, the second ballroom at the end of the 5th round, and the third ballroom at the end of the final 7th round. So for example, this ballroom that you see right here will score strictly according to whoever has the most dancers in it during the round in which it scores. Yet this one here scores 7 points for each pair of dancer tokens that you have in it when it is scored. And it's important to notice that each of these 5 ballrooms will also lose players 5 points if you have no dancers in them when they score. So it's very important to pay attention to each of these ballrooms and the champagne that you collect because they can provide you with lots of points, lots of one-time abilities, but also deduct points just like the Emperor would typically do in the game. So that is Vienna Ballrooms, the very first module in the first expansion for Grand Austria Hotel called Let's Waltz. But I would regret not telling you that inside of this box, what you don't see are other modules that are super exciting. And unfortunately, I'm not allowed to show you them here, but please participate in the Kickstarter to see more content added to an already great game. And as I alluded to at the very beginning of this video, there's also going to be a deluxe version. And of course, check out the Kickstarter page to see all the final components. Everything that you saw here today was in prototype form. If you have any questions about the game, please make them in the comments below. And thank you for watching. Hey everyone, if you guys enjoyed this video, please consider dinging the old bell below. That is going to help notify you of new videos that are uploaded to our channel. And as always, give us a like, subscribe to our channel, and please consider watching all of our videos, one of which you could see right here to my left.